What Lonzo Thinks is a wide-ranging discussion where I offer up my unsolicited views on everything from music, sports, television, pop culture, politics. You name it, if it's going down, I've got an opinion on it. Mostly unsolicited, but it's still an opinion. Alright, next on my list of Prince reviews is the Black Album. Now, the Black Album was replaced by Love Sexy. It was scheduled to be released on December 8th, 1987, but Prince, the week before the release, Prince actually had it pulled from the shelves because he had an epiphany. Some say that he was on ecstasy and had a bad, strange trip that made him think that the album was evil, that he should not release it because some entity known as Spooky Electric, which was the alter ego to his alter ego, Camille, professed that the album was too dark and evil and he should get away from it. So he listened and he pulled it, and the Black Album was born as the greatest bootleg in the history of music. It was one of the most highly sought after bootlegs ever, and the allure of the Black Album became even more of an allure because it was so hard to get. And I actually remember back in the day searching high and low for this album. I heard about it and I never heard any tracks from it, and I was just desperate to get my hands on it. And as fate would have it, I was in the military at the time, and a guy had just I was in Texas, and a guy that I knew had just gotten from overseas, had PCS'd in, transferred into our base, and he actually had the LP, the vinyl LP of the Black Album, and he allowed me to make a copy of it. So I was one of the first people to actually get my hands on it. And I loved it. I think the fact that it was so hard to get, it was so spooky, and so it had this myth behind it, made it even more of an experience. It made it sound even better because you knew you had something that nobody else had and that everybody wanted to get their hands on. And damn it, I wasn't going to share it with anybody. And I didn't bootleg it myself. I didn't sell it. I just kept it for myself. And I let some select people hear, say, hey, yeah, listen to this. Oh, who's that? That's Prince. Oh, that's Prince. Where's it at? And where can I get it? You can't, brother. It's the Black Album. Shh, don't tell nobody. So that was one of the beautiful things about it, is that, especially for Prince fans, it was just this unknown entity that you had to have and that nobody else had. And once again, it was the most sought after bootleg in the history of music. And a lot of the copies got out, of course, and a lot of celebrities got their hands on it and professed it was something that, some of the best music they had heard that year as well. So it has a long-standing legacy. And actually, to be honest, I'm disappointed that the album finally did get released. It was released on November 22nd, 1994. And amid very little fanfare, just kind of just put it out. But it kind of made it anticlimactic. And I was kind of disappointed that now everybody, can get their hands on it. So that kind of took away some of the fun of actually having this album. Now, the Black Album was released in a plain black wrapper. No wording on it, no titles, anything, just a catalog number. And it wasn't any artwork or anything. That was the artwork, just all black, and that made it even more of a genius move. And I always kind of surmised that Prince probably did that on purpose, just to tease us and to have us out there in this cat and mouse game trying to find his music. Because I think deep down inside, he liked the fact that his fans, would go out the way they did to try to get his music, and I think he kind of liked the cat and mouse. Anyways, let's get into the review of the album. What I'm doing is a retrospective review of every Prince studio album from the beginning to sadly the end. And I'll go through each track, just give a brief snapshot of my opinion of the songs, and then an overall analysis or synopsis on the work of art itself. Now, the Black Album is definitely a concept album, and it opens with the song Le Grind. Now, Le Grind is a very funky song. It's a driving song. And actually, the first time I heard Le Grind was actually before I actually got my hands on the Black Album. It was played on the radio station. This was in San Antonio, Texas. I remember I was driving, and they played it. I'm like, wait, whoa, what is this? And of course, they say it's some new music from Prince. So obviously, the radio station got their hands on a bootleg, and they decided to go ahead and play it. And La Grind is funky as hell. It is great, and the whole album itself is grimy and gritty, and it has this kind of a back room, back alley feel to it. And it's that just makes the album more of a masterpiece in my mind. But La Grind is a great song. It's nasty, it's dirty, it's sticky, it's all the songs are on this album are kind of hard to describe, other than the fact that it's from the Black Album. But it's called La Grind. He did it with his band, of course, and it's a great song. Listen to it. It's a great opening track to the concept to the concept record itself. And La Grind is La Grind, French La Grind. It's a long song, and it just has this driving funk synth beat to it that's just really, really great to listen to. Followed by Cindy C. Now, Cindy C is a song about, I guess, dedicated to Cindy Crawford. And he's basically talking about Cindy C, this super fine model that he's enamored with. And it's a fun song. It's a great song. There's not really much to it other than the fact that it fits the concept of the record itself. Now, next up is Dead on It. Now, Dead on It is a song that kind of got him in trouble with the R&B hip hop crowd, because it's actually a parody, or where he's actually calling out hip hop artists who try to sing, accusing them of being tone deaf. So that's the fun thing about it, is that he's kind of going in on rappers. Only a few years later, he got into doing rap himself, especially when he brought on that bastard Tony M onto his team, and so that kind of made him a bit of a hypocrite when it came to this subject. But Dead on It is a fun song where he's just kind of making fun of hip hop and rappers, but like I said, he kind of sold himself out once he started doing rap as well. When Two Are in Love. Now, When Two Are in Love is the one track that did make it onto Love Sexy. It's a slow jam ballad, one of his forgotten gems. It's a good song, not a great song, but it is one of those forgotten ones. It's not something that I run to listen to, but that doesn't mean that it's not bad. It's a good song. It's just not one of my favorite of the Prince ballads. Now, next up, let me stop a little bit here and say that some of the tracks on this record were also made by Camille, which was Prince's alter ego. So some of these tracks that did make it onto other incarnations was mostly based on the Camille recordings. So next up is Bob George. Now, Bob George is a funky rap funk hybrid type song where he actually disguises his voice, and he's actually talking about it's one of the strangest songs Prince has ever done. Has a driving beat to it. Don't 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 don't. Oh my God, that's just too funky. It's too funky. He's actually talking. He's not even really rapping. He's just talking in his voice as he's talking about Prince. I guess talking to his lover about that skinny motherfucker with the high voice. Please, who do it look like, baby? Yesterday's fool. Don't you know I will kill you now? Fucking right. I got a gun. So it's a gangster type song, and it's one of the strangest songs you will ever hear. It's very nasty. It's X-rated, but it's a fun song to listen to. And I think this was a song that I would play for my friends when I finally did get my hands on it. Say, hey, you gotta listen to this. And everybody like, hey, make me a copy. I gotta hear it. I gotta have that. Everybody loved Bob George. I think Bob George is the best song on this album, and I think this is everybody's go-to track for this particular release. Super Funky Califragisexy is next. And you don't want to talk about a kinetic song. That title in itself is kinetic. It's just a fun, sprawling, instrumental fusion funk jazz piece that is just all over the place and focused at the same time. A great song. Two Nigs United for West Compton is also a jazz fusion type of a song that would fit on some of his jazz recordings as well. It's instrumental and it's just a sprawling horn, funk based, jazzy fusion type song. And it's very long, but it's a great song to listen to. Especially, it's one of those songs once again that you can drive to, or you're cleaning the house, whatever, just kind of dancing around to. That's what it's kind of good for. But Super Funky Califragisexy and Two Nigs United for West Compton are two great companion tracks. And it's a great follow-up to the infamous Bob George. And finally, that brings us to Rock Hard in a Funky Place, which was a Camille track as well. I can't sing. Anyways, Rock Hard in a Funky Place. Does anybody know you're here in this house of ill repute? Ooh, honey, I'm scared of you. As you can tell, I love this song. It's a great end to this album itself. And once again, all these tracks, none of these tracks are actually meant for the radio or for singles. So I think that might be another reason why, he might have decided not to release it, because it just wasn't radio friendly at all. But Rock Hard in a Funky Place is just that, a funky song where you can rock hard to. So that's it for the Black Album. Now, as a whole, the Black Album is definitely in my top 10 of Prince releases. The thing about it to me is once again, it kind of lost its allure when they finally decided to release it with basically no fanfare. They just kind of just dumped it out there. It was obviously, during the time when he was actually having problems with Warner Brothers and in the midst of changing his name and Slave and all that kind of stuff. So it's a shame that it didn't get the recognition it deserved. Also a shame that it got released with a little fanfare, but at the same time, it did get a lot of recognition as the greatest bootleg ever created in the history of mankind, which in itself is a great title to hold. But it's a great album. This is not the album to play for someone if they're trying to get into Prince. It is not, because they won't get into Prince. The only song that really might snag someone, I think, would be La Grind or Bob George. If you're going to play anything for anyone off this album, try to get them into maybe learning more about Prince, it's got to be Bob George, because it's such a fun song that makes you ask questions and want to hear more of the album itself, because you're kind of intrigued by what he's trying to do with it. So in that regard, the Black Album is a Prince masterpiece. I think it's one of his last masterpieces. It's just something that, like I said, it kind of loses its allure to me because of the way it was released, but that has nothing to do with the quality of the tracks. And I think it's kind of a shame that during the whole Sign of the Times, Love Sexy, Black Album phase, that he wasn't getting along with Warner Brothers and wasn't getting the kind of support that he wanted to kind of get his vision out there. Because I like to try to imagine a world where Dream Factory, Camille, Crystal Ball, the Black Album, and Love Sexy all reside together. And oddly enough, on a Prince bootleg, I actually bought a Prince bootleg way back in the, good Lord, in I think like 1990, 89, 90, from a flea market. It was called Royal Jewels, and it had a lot of these tracks on it and some other stuff that wound up on the Crystal Ball release that came several years later in the mid 90s. Like Crystal Ball itself, on this particular bootleg, the song was titled Expert Lover. But that was also, you had songs like what was it? Of course, Dead on It was on it, and some other songs. Days of Wild, some songs that would turn up on some subsequent releases. So that was all during this. Those songs were all kind of conceptualized during this whole Black Album, Camille, Dream Factory, Crystal Ball phase. I think it's a shame, it's a travesty that we didn't get Prince's original concept, the thing that he really wanted us to hear versus what we actually got, which was, Sign of the Times and then Love Sexy / the Black Album. It just kind of took away from it, I think. And I think that's a shame because a superstar at his level, you would think that the record label would let him put out anything that he wanted, but it didn't quite happen that way. And that's always something that kind of bothered me. But as a whole, the Black Album is great. Listen to it, cop it, buy it, play it for friends. Just start them off with Bob George, and you'll be good to go. So what do you think? Hit me up. Let me know. Subscribe. What Lonzo thinks at Twitter, or Twitter at What Lonzo Thinks, or hit me up with some emails, whatlonzothinks@gmail.com. Comment below. You can catch me on Facebook, of course. Your comments are greatly appreciated. I get a lot of comments, especially from Prince fans. They call me out. So if I'm missing out on some information, or I'm talking too fast, or dropping some misspeaking a little bit, let me know. Once again, I consider myself a Prince expert, but I don't know everything. Now, I'm sure there's folks out there that know a little bit more than me. So please share it with me. And if I need to be corrected, then damn it, correct me. I'll be nice about it, but correct me, and I do appreciate it. So, once again, it's Prince, the Black Album. Cop it. This is what Lonzo thinks.